good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, and welcome to the fifth instalment of the eShepherd Virtual Fencing webinar series. Warm welcome to you all from around the globe, all corners, and also wonderful to have our eShepherd team joining us here as well. So, as always, the purpose of these webinars is to create a community platform where we all get to share ideas, hear from other producers, find out what the latest is happening in this virtual fencing space. Hopefully come away with some new ideas to move forward. So a couple of quick housekeeping matters. If you do mind just muting your microphones, please, unless you're talking. That just helps other speakers hear clearly what people are saying. That'd be great. Thank you. I will let you know that this webinar is being recorded just for future use. So if you've got to jump off early or you've got friends and family that you want to share afterwards, of course, you can. That webinar recording will come out on your email in the next few days, and you can share that with other people. Fantastic. Also, just like to say good morning to you, Zippo, the Wizard of Oz, our customer success manager. Zippo will be co-hosting this morning. We've got a great lineup of producers this morning. We've got Simon Fowler from Southern Western Australia catching up with us this morning. First up, we've got our Brian Rose, our product development manager for weighing and EID, talking about the auto weigher, and we've also got our lovely JC Ellsworth from the US and one of her customers, Mark Martin, who will be joining us this morning. So I've got a great lineup. As always, fill the chat, flood us with questions. We've got plenty of eShepherd team members online to answer those questions for you. And if you'd like to ask a verbal question, of course, there's a little hand button at the top of your screen. You can just tap that one and we'll endeavour to answer your questions as we go along. Alrighty then, Zippo, I think we should get started. Do we have Sarah online yet? Or maybe she's still in another meeting, I think. You're on mute, Zippo.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Sarah, sorry, she's still in another meeting, but she's going to join us just to talk, give a little update on some changes here in Australia to legislation in New South Wales. So I won't speak about it too much now. We'll try and maybe we'll jump on and have a chat with Simon first, and then when I'll try and bring Sarah into the meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Zippo. So we've got, I'd like to introduce also Brian Rose. Brian Rose from New Zealand. Morning to you, Brian.
Morning, Mark. Thank you very much for letting me join today and talk to the team of producers that are here. Really exciting to talk a little bit around what we're doing with the auto weigher and ultimately the potential for that to work in a larger production system with eShepherd. So I'm going to share my screen real quick, a couple of pictures, talk a little bit around the auto weigher, a little bit of background, maybe show a quick little overview of the, if you like, the interface, and then ultimately hand over, I think, to Simon to talk a little bit around how ultimately the auto weigher and eShepherd are used together. So bear with me for a second here. Actually, Zippo or Mark, you might have to give me control to share.
Oh, okay. Let me see that I can do that.
Just while the guys are doing that, so Brian's role essentially is bringing new weighing and EID products to the forefront for commercialisation. So, you know, our TW range, all our scanners, the HR4, the HR5, all our panel readers, the wireless load bars that we've brought to the market in the last 3 or 4 years, they've been an absolute game changer. So, I guess the journey of the auto weigher has been a natural progression, in our product offering, and obviously integrating that with all the rest of our, weighing equipment. So Brian's going to talk to that a little bit about the auto weigher. How you going there, Brian?
Good. Well, Zippo's doing that. I'll just carry on a little bit, and when that comes up, I can jump onto that. So a little bit of background around the auto weigher. It was developed in Ireland. So we're in a partnership with a company by the name of Strongbow Agritech. And Michal, the founder, he started developing the auto weigher on the back of an opportunity that he saw on his family farm around wanting to get more regular insights around the weight and performance of his animals. So started, if you like, beavering away in the workshop there, building different prototypes and different systems many years ago to try and bring that insight forward and to the forefront of running that operation. Fast forward many versions and many years, he actually picked up his business and moved it to Canada. So the units are now all, if you like, designed and manufactured in Canada, and the software and the rest of the business is still out of Ireland. The reason he moved it to Canada was he was actually trying to focus on the feedlot industry. He saw a wee bit of value proposition around helping to pick out and, if you like, cut out animals out of the pens before they exceeded a maximum weight, and effectively the producer was getting penalised for going over that weight range. So that was the initial value proposition of the product. They did some good work there, and we started talking to them several years ago around the product, and we were, you know, quite excited around the potential of helping producers effectively, you know, be more efficient and profitable long term, and how that solution could subsequently be used in more of a, if you like, a pastoral environment and setting. So we are an investor now in the company, and we are globally distributing it effectively all around the world, and have got product now in the USA, in Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and Chile, and we're starting to do a few more units into the rest of be like Latin America as well. So really excited around the technology and the opportunity, and looking more again into the discussion and being here with this team and the group here today is how it can then work as part of a wider production system, as it really becomes quite interesting and exciting to explore. How are we going? Oh, yep, and I do have control now, so I'm just going to pop up a couple of pictures. Thanks, Abo.
No worries. That was in the nick of time.
Just in the nick of time. So hopefully you can see that. Just want to say visually show you what we're talking about here. So this is the auto weigher. The animal can step up, so it's a front foot weighing system. Steps up with its front feet. There's a like a bin, for lack of a better name, where we put an attractant, so a salt block, some mineral. The producer may use a molasses mix early on to entice animals to get used to stepping up onto the platform. And then in behind where their head is, there's an EID reader. So the animals do have to have an electronic ID in their ear, which is fine for like Australia and New Zealand where it's compulsory. Some of our other regions, you do need to put an EID in the ear for it to operate. But ultimately, we're then collecting weights, and we're connected via a cellular backhaul, and that data is then sent up to the cloud and made available via a web and mobile application. A couple other quick pictures here. I can move that along. Just showing that bin area I was talking about in a little bit more detail. So you put your mineral, your lick into there. And then the last image here, just showing it in what we call its transport mode. So there's a simple lever to pull, fold it down, put it onto a drawbar of a side-by-side or a any tow bar, and tow it to the next paddock, the next field. And then there's just, again, one pin to unclip and then fold it back up and lock into position. So very simple, very easy. Once it's set up, it's very stable. So no issues with animals tipping it over or damaging it. So yeah, so very good wee bit of kit.
Yep. Brian, I guess a couple of questions that come across, in field days for the auto weigh is, number one, how many or what percentage of the mob do you find generally, gets weighed? Is it 50%? Is it 70%?
Yep. So there is some variation depending on the size of paddocks. So if you're in a bigger field rather than a more intense, we do get, different percentages, but we're easily getting between 50 and 80% coming through on average. And often it's more at that higher end, especially once the animals get used to it, then they're more likely to come to use it. If you deploy it near water, that's also a really good strategy around animals come for water. Then they recognise the unit and they're more likely to go on and have some of the mineral lick. So it all helps to get that rate up.
Yep. And is the data in real time, or is there certain windows that the data flows through to the app or the mobile, the platform, the web app?
Yep. So the data at the moment sent every 30 minutes. So via that cellular interval, it will, if you like, save it a little bit, and then it'll send an update every 30 minutes through to the app. So it's very close to real time, but not quite.
Yep. Excellent. That's great. And I guess that leads a little bit nicely into having a chat with Simon. Unless you've got any other slides to share there, Brian.
No other slides. I will just quickly show the interface just so that people get an understanding for a little bit of the data, and then we'll hand over to Simon. So I'll be real quick here. So that's just a little bit of some test data that we have. So what we're looking at here is I'm just going to change to a different session actually. So there's a mob of 90 or 89 head in here, and over, we're talking the 28th of March to 1st of May, so pretty much a month. We've gotten 79 out of 89 of that head. We can see, if you like, the distribution, so what the weight ranges are, the average weight, and then we're looking at the weight gains through there. On the right-hand side, we're able to look at the trends, so either a daily gain, a 14-day average, or a 21-day average, and we can see our number of visits, and then we see our individuals as well, what the weights of the individuals. There's a traffic light system here, if you like, so you can see some greens, and then we also have some other colors down here, maybe a couple. Yep, so there's an orange here. We use that to indicate our level of confidence around the weight. And what that is looking at is the number of times an animal's visited, or also the quality of a visit. What I mean by the quality, if they stand very still on there, we know that's a very good quality visit, versus if they quickly jumped on and we're moving around a lot, we'll say, hey, there's less certainty around how accurate that might be. Yeah, I think that's enough really for now, Mark. Certainly if there's more interest or anything,
Yep. No, thanks. Thanks very much, Brian. That's great. And that's a good overview of the Strongbow. So yeah, morning, Simon. I think the echo is coming from you, so I'll stop talking in a minute. But I'd just like to introduce Simon again. Simon's a long-term early adopter of the eShepherd system, based in WA. So yeah, over to you, Simon. I just can't hear your thoughts on the eShepherd. How you've been using it on your property, what class of animals, and of course a bit about Strongbow.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Mark. Can you can hear me all right, can you?
Yep, crystal clear. I'll turn the microphone off.
No worries. Okay. Yep, thanks for the introduction. Yeah, look, for me, we've been using a Strongbow since about February, and obviously the virtual fencing, the eShepherd, for a fair bit longer than that. But I guess for me, there's a lot of side benefits, or what I would call side benefits, to the virtual fencing. Things like, better pasture utilisation, and less labour requirements, and less fencing, and easy protection of remnant vegetation. But really, to invest in the virtual fencing, you really have to get a substantial and sustained improvement in animal performance to justify the use of the system. So for me, the only way you can ensure that you are getting that improved performance is to have an auto weighing system in the paddock. I think weighing them every few months, you're not going to get the information you need, and you don't have the control you need to make sure that you're getting that substantial improvement in animal production. So really, it's a no-brainer. If you're going to invest in the virtual fencing, you really need to be able to invest in some sort of technology that gives you control and constant control over animal performance. So yeah, so that's, for me, it's worked. The Strongbow has been pretty good. Obviously, there's still a few issues with any new technology. There's a bit of variation between the weights we see on the app versus on the web, which I know the guys are trying to deal with. But yeah, so far it's given us really good feedback. In our usage, we've been using it on cell grazing millet, pearl and millet over the summer, and grazing wheat stubbles over the summer. And now we're using it in a confinement virtual feedlot setup. So yeah, look, it's worked really well, and it's robust. The animals have adapted to it really quickly. You start to get some pretty good feedback within a couple of weeks, and I think we've got maybe 360 animals have used it out of a possible 400 in the mob. So I mean, some of those have used it 80 or 90 times or more, and others have only used it a handful of times. But it's giving us the feedback we need to ensure that we're getting the returns from our eShepherd system. Yeah, so I guess that's about it.
That's great to hear, Simon. And had the pleasure of visiting you back in February, and precision of the picture that you see on the screen, guys. So Simon was running, and he might be best to explain, but basically strip grazing in those two paddocks or lines that you can see, and then sort of angling it back to the water. You had about, I think, 400 animals there, Simon, in that paddock at that particular time.
Yeah, so yeah, two mobs in that paddock with the different coloured collars on. One mob of 400, one mob of about 380 animals. So same paddock, just different virtual fences, and strip grazing millet. And as you can see, there's basically no crossover between the mobs. A couple of animals robbed off their collars, and they had a bit of free range, but generally it was achieving its purpose. Yep.
Yep. So containment's obviously pretty good, and that's really important when you've got multiple animals running in one paddock. And how do you find the training of the animals, Simon? I know that you're sort of moving animals in and out all the time. How are you finding that the new animals are adapting when they're being boxed in with existing animals?
Yeah, look, that's probably what we were doing last spring in our rotational grazing of the ryegrass. So we only had 500 collars last year and 1,000 steers. So as animals were achieving their sale weight, we were switching those collars onto new animals and putting them straight into the cell grazing rotation, and yeah, they were picking it up instantly. Learnt off the other animals straight away. Containment was really good, so it is amazing how quickly they can learn.
Yeah, no, that's common feedback we get, I guess, from users. So what's next, Simon? You're doing the trade cattle or the young cattle. Are you considering cows and calves going forward?
Yeah, I'd certainly love to have enough collars, Mark, to use them on the cows and calves as well, but we're not at that point yet. We've got 1,000 collars for 1,000 steers, and I'd probably like to run them on the heifer calves as well, the cull heifers and the even the breeding heifer calves. And then yeah, some point in time, would love to be calving with collars on, and allowing that deferred grazing to be to happen, and allow the calves to have access to the best feed in the paddock. I'm sure there's going to be some really good upside in that in our system.
Yep. Absolutely. No, that's great, Simon. That's a really good snapshot of, I guess, integrating the eShepherd with the Strongbow. Thank you for your time. I know you're busy in the cattle yards today, so we'll let you go unless anyone's got any other questions. You can raise your hand now quickly, but that's fantastic. And yeah, look forward to seeing your eShepherd journey progress.
No worries. Thanks, Mark. Good on you. Thanks for your support too. I mean, I guess the other thing I decided to go with the Strongbow just because of the good support I'd received from Zippo and the rest of the team there at Gallagher. So I think you guys are doing well with your customer support. So yeah,
Excellent.
Cheers.
Thanks, Simon. Appreciate you guys. Good on you. Have a good day. Excellent. All right. All right, now we might crack in and keep rolling. So Sarah Adams has joined us in Melbourne with Zippo. So morning, Sarah. Thank you very much for joining us. So Sarah's part of our senior leadership team based in New Zealand and very much immersed in ag tech and an industry figure, and is our current general manager of the eShepherd solution. So yeah, Sarah's got a few updates she'd like to share. Over to you, Sarah.
Thanks, and thanks for all joining the webinar. The latest update that I really have around eShepherd is the New South Wales regulation change. So yesterday, I'm currently based in New Zealand, but currently in Melbourne at the moment, and was up in Sydney yesterday at Parliament, speaking with the Minister of Agriculture about the change. So New South Wales they have put through that they will be doing a regulation change, and now they're just moving into a consultation period, and they're going to start working with the leading virtual fencing companies, and that was one of the reasons why I was there, to have that initial meeting. And what we know is it will be months away before, not years, so months before we can sell into New South Wales, which is fantastic news for all of the people in New South Wales who have been really, really interested in waiting patiently to be able to get the type of productivity that you're hearing from Simon and a lot of our other customers, and it will enable you to graze much better and really take advantage of those opportunities to have a much more efficient system. So next steps are, we are providing quite a lot of information around the product to the Minister and to the committee, and they're going to come and have a look at a system on one of our properties to really understand about the use, and also what regulations that they need to put in there. So the Minister of Agriculture is also the Minister of Animal Welfare, and wants to ensure that they are making the right decisions around animal welfare and productivity and balancing that up. So what I think we'll see, or what she told me we'll see, is pretty broad regulations, but so there will, yes, virtual fencing will be allowed and will be able to be used like it is around the world, but they will be mindful of the things around animal welfare, so limited the pulse and limited, make sure that's limited, and we're really looking after animals and people. So that's really the update. If there's
Excellent.
any questions, happy to take them.
Just while you are thinking about your questions that you've got for Sarah, I guess anyone that's in New South Wales, and yes, I've had plenty of phone calls over the last week and plenty of emails and people looking for availability and pricing and all the rest of it. Even though we can't commercially sell it into New South Wales just yet, now's a great time to talk to us about, talking about what your operation is, what your goals are, talking to us about price. We can provide a quote, we can put you on a list to ensure that we're best equipped when New South Wales does fall, that we're, we can supply as best we can. And obviously there's going to be a massive influx of people that are really keen to get this technology on farm, which is fantastic. So yeah, by all means, keep talking to me in New South Wales if you're in Australia and you're keen to jump on that journey. So excellent. Thank you very much, Sarah. Great to have you. And
sorry, I see there is a question there about status around introduction to Victoria. That is, we are working with the government in Victoria and South Australia, but it is a lot further away. So we would be expecting, instead of months, it would be years. So yeah, hopefully only 1 to 2 years, but we've been working with them for a long time, and there's a lot more work to do. Their requirements are quite different to the New South Wales one. So we will continue working down that track, and we're happy to engage, and we're also engaging with South Australia, but that one won't be so close.
Excellent. Good stuff. All right. Thank you, Sarah. All right, we'll keep rolling on, guys. We're doing well for time. So we're going to switch across to JC Ellsworth now. JC's based in the US, and JC's brought a customer on our webinar today to share his experience. So if you're ready to go, JC, it's over to you.
Awesome. All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, absolutely. We can, JC, and we can hear you well too.
Okay, perfect. Can you see presenter view? There, is that the right view?
And now it's the right view.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
that's the right view. Perfect.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. I'm JC, as Mark said, and I'm located in South Dakota, here in the US, and excited to introduce customer Mark Martin. Mark lives down in Texas and is using eShepherd in a couple different locations in Texas and has been using it for a while now. So Mark, I will hand the mic to you, and if you could just start out, maybe share a little about your operation.
Hey everybody, my name is Mark, and thanks, JC. We have had a great deal of success so far with eShepherd. We run multiple herds across multiple physical locations in the state of Texas, and so it's been a journey. It was a friend of mine down in South Texas where they have not a whole lot of forage. He's on 7,000 acres. And has 300 or 400 head, I believe, and he was a beta tester for eShepherd, Stephen and Henry Burns down in South Texas. And he turned me on to it because we were having a phone conversation about, we raised registered Black Angus seed stock, we raised bulls, and then we also raised red Brangus for beef, and then we steer some of our Black Angus for beef as well. And we were having this conversation around fencing and bullpens and the things I needed to do as we grow. And so I called my fence contractor here locally that I've done some work with, and I said, hey, I need to build some bullpens for these up and coming young bulls. What am I looking at for some pipe fencing? And he said, well, to start out with, it's $50 a foot for pipe fencing, and that's if you go with sucker rod and a kind of a cheaper version. And I choked for a second, thinking about how much fencing I needed. And then I remembered what Stephen and I had talked about with the virtual fencing, and I called him and I said, hey, do you think this would work on bulls and young bulls and keeping them away from everybody else? And he laughed. He said, well, there's never a guarantee with that, but we can try it. But so I called up the team at eShepherd and ordered 60 collars, and away we went. And it's been a huge success for us because we have areas that on some of our lease properties that I couldn't graze in the past because there was no physical fence on a boundary. In particular, we have a 110-acre coastal field, coastal Bermuda hay down south, and I wanted to graze that as winter stockpile, and I couldn't because there was no fence. And so I put up a polywire fence. We had done polywire paddocks in the past and had some success with that. And but these cattle were not trained to polywire. They weren't trained to any type of other type of fencing, and so I was pretty nervous. So when we got the collars, we trained them for 2 weeks in a training paddock, got them all above about an 80% response rate, and then, or audio response rate. And then I was able to turn them loose out into this paddock. And JC's got a picture. JC, I think it's the 4th page. One more. So up at the top of that, go back one. Up at the top is that 110-acre hayfield up at the top where I have the virtual paddocks. And at the very end of that, you can't see it on the screenshot, but there is no fence. And so we had polywire up there as a backstop to the virtual fence. And we were able to graze that, and then I gave them about 10 acres. It was 60 head. I gave them about 10 acres a week to move through, and I was able to graze that for 7-8 weeks as winter stockpile, and that was hugely successful. But one thing we learned, we try to have a pretty strict calving season, but this was a herd that I had taken over from a friend of mine that I purchased, and I didn't know the full history of the bulls and timing and everything. And so one day, as these slides indicate, this random orange dot down at the bottom left showed up way outside my boundary, and the rest of my herd is way up in the hayfield. And so this is about a total of 250 acres that you're looking at here. And this one cow just went AWOL and went up this terrain up here where that orange dot is very steep, very wooded, pretty rough country. And I was like, what? And it's January in Texas, which is cold as all get out. So like, what is she doing? Is something wrong? Is she sick? So I got an alert from the system that said animal way outside of the boundary. So I waited about 12 hours. This particular place is 2 hours from me. And so the next morning I got up and drove down there. And the middle slide is me on a four-wheeler trying to find her. And so I got close to her, but I couldn't see her. And then the third slide there is me walking through the brush trying to find her. Still couldn't see her. But I was able to use the app on my phone and see exactly where that animal was and which direction I needed to walk to be able to walk up to her. And I expected to find her dead, honestly. There was no other thing that could have been going on. So JC, if you'll go to the next slide. So this is what I could see on the left was nothing. And then I got a little bit closer and I could see the cow and she was standing up and that was great. And then I got a few steps closer and there she is with her new calf. And so the system helped me identify an animal that could have been in trouble, could have been ill or sick, but in this instance was simply getting away from the herd to have her calf and protect it from predators, etc. And then 3 days later, she moved back down with the rest of the herd. Since that time, we've had this happen 5 more times. And in that particular herd, every time they'll leave the herd, go off on their own and calve. And so I'm super excited. Hopefully in the future, as you guys continue to iterate on the product, we'll be able to sense heats and we'll be able to sense calving, because especially with these Brangus cows, and I know my Angus cattle here in Central Texas, they will leave the herd and go have a calf. And so it's great for me to be able to go find them, especially with as much land as we cover. Then the other piece for us really is just the grazing piece, that winter stockpile. JC, if you can go one more, I believe. There you go. So this is the heat map from the winter when we grazed that coastal field. And up there to the top left, there is no physical fence, just a strand of polywire on a S200 charger, I think, a Gallagher. And we're pretty brand loyal with Gallagher. But that's the only thing holding them in. And you can see from the heat map, they obeyed the virtual fence perfectly. And this was after a 7-day, I opened up a new fresh section for them that morning, and they had not moved up to it yet. But this shows the heat map of where they were grazing that last 7 days. And then their water is down here at the bottom, back up the hill. So pretty darn impressed with the product. We've been able to use it very successfully, to the point a couple of weeks ago, I was traveling to Atlanta. I do some other things. I was on an airplane 35,000 feet in the air. We had some inclement weather coming in, and I have, anytime we get a lot of rain here in Central Texas, we get a lot of runoff it'll blow out water gaps, it'll blow out fences. So I have a perimeter built with a virtual fence that I call my water containment area. If we get a bunch of water, a bunch of rain, I turn that on so that it doesn't let them test the boundaries of the perimeter fencing where my water gaps are, and keeps them out of those streams and creeks and things. I was able to do that from 35,000 feet in the air, and turn off where they were, turn on their new area, all from the airplane. So that was pretty fantastic. So for us, it's really just been about utilizing it across multiple geographic locations and using it in areas where historically I would not have been able to graze effectively without quite a bit of infrastructure.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. There was a question, and kind of going back to what the type of terrain that you're running on looks like. But they asked, let's see, how well do the collars stay on in scrub/rougher country? Do you find they rub them off on trees and bushes? So can you speak a little to your experience in that?
Yep. No, they do not, and we have had one collar come apart on a bull. One of my, if you'll go one or two more pictures, there's a picture of our bull, our herd sire. There he is on the right. He broke his collar off fighting with another bull, and just doing normal bull things, and it completely ripped it off. But if you look at his neck size, I didn't realize that there's an extra large chain set now. So we've changed that out to the extra large, and he's had no more problems breaking it or having any issues with it. But as far as hanging it up in the country, I feed our bulls. They're able to lay it over the bunk feeders. They dunk it in the water troughs. They bang it on the trees. The things are pretty darn indestructible. Here they are feeding in the concrete bunks. They're banging them against the bunks. They're getting their heads in below those bars to eat, and they have zero issues. So a couple of bands have turned upside down occasionally. We run them through, and JC helped me with this. Steers obviously grow quickly, heifers grow quickly, and so we just have it on our calendar that every 60 to 90 days, we're checking the fitment of the collars. We're running them through the chute, checking the fitment. We'll loosen as we need to, because they are growing and they're living animals, and sometimes an older cow, it'll need to be tightened up a little bit as well. You know, if she's losing weight or she's got broken teeth and can't gain as well. So we've just made it now a practice to run them through every 60 to 90 days to check those collars.
Great. Thanks, Mark.
Right,
one
thanks,
other
guys.
thing. Oh, go ahead.
Nope, I'm good.
I know you and I have kind of had some conversations around calves, and especially calves that are maybe a bit older than the ones in these pictures. But what have you seen there for cow-calf behavior?
So, you know, I should have sent you a picture to show everybody. So in that big hay field, in fact, the picture on the left, they're standing in the middle of that coastal hay field that we grazed in the winter. The larger calves, were able to go out and get the better grass ahead of the mamas, and they didn't test the polywire. And I was pretty nervous about it because they could, you know, probably go under it, but they didn't stray too far from mom. I would say 50 yards, 100 yards was about the furthest I saw a calf and a 6-month-old calf going out who's, you know, fully grazing. They didn't get too far from the herd, and that was one of my big concerns. But they are able to go out and get the better grass, as Simon alluded to earlier. It's really a great practice to allow those calves to get the best grass first. Probably also a lower parasite load in that fresh grass, and so we've had great success with that, and I've not had any issues with finding calves where they're not supposed to be.
Awesome. Great. And I'm curious go ahead. Sorry.
Nope.
I was just going to say, I'm curious for those fellow eShepherd users that are online, what has helped you kind of learn the system the best? Because I feel like you really kind of ran with it and we're making it work for you pretty quickly. So just as far as, you know, learning it and pushing it, what has helped you?
These webinars are huge. I learned more on that first webinar with Zippo than any of the tutorials. I still can't figure out how to do an exclusion zone, so maybe I can buy a one-on-one. I got some deer feeders I need to keep these guys out of, but that's the only thing I can't figure out. But it's really, once you make that transition from, I'll call it American terminology to Australian terminology of mobs and hectares and, you know, different units and different things, and it's all converting now. But in the early days, you know, I had to kind of figure all that out. But it's very intuitive. I use the computer to set my paddocks. I don't try to use the phone. You just can't see well enough on the phone app to draw lines and do all that. But so I use the computer and the bigger screen to draw my paddocks, make sure my watering points are in the right place. But then I take my phone and I physically go out in the paddock and I stand at the watering point and I look at my location versus what I'm showing on the map that I drew, just to make sure that I haven't messed up. The first paddock I ever drew, I drew the line too close to a gate, and I messaged JC. I said, hey, I just watched a steer jump about 3 feet in the air. I got him a little too close to the gate. And but it is crazy how accurate it is. And we're on the cellular system, but it's crazy how accurate it is. And learning it, just read the tutorials, play with the system, set up a couple of herds, you know, if you can, that are, and it might even be a cool idea to set up a mock herd that you could play with. The only thing I've had problems with, and I've just had to fake the system, is the EID numbers. We don't run EID tags yet in all of our cattle. And so I have to manually put in a fake number when I'm registering the collar to an animal. And I've got so many now that I'm kind of running out of numbers to fake myself with. So, but we'll get the EID soon. But that seems to be the only thing that I kind of struggled with initially. Awesome. The other thing is, remember to turn it off. If you're moving the cattle, you're hauling the cattle, you have to think ahead and think, okay, I'm going to go do this tomorrow. I'm going to move them or take them to the sale barn or move them to another lease or whatever. You got to remember to turn it off. And it takes about 30 minutes to an hour to get all of them off, and then you can move everybody. So be patient and have fun with it.
There was a suggestion that we quickly run through how to create an exclusion zone. Maybe I'll just share my screen and quickly show you how to do that, Mark. So this is actually at your place, so I'll just use a little corner of your place to demonstrate that. So if we go to the virtual paddocks menu here and click on create, just like you will create a normal inclusion zone. So I'm going to go over here into a nice area where there's not much else. So we start off by defining our inclusion zone. So you can see on the left-hand side here, by default, you start creating an inclusion zone. So I'm going to start drawing that inclusion zone. And again, I'm just going to make it a blob shape. And so now I've finished defining the inclusion zone, and you can see I've closed that shape by going back on the first dot that I dropped. And now all I need to do now is switch to the exclusion zone. So I can start defining the exclusion zone that is inside the inclusion zone. So that's how you do the exclusion zone in the inclusion zone. So, and then I can save that, and it will show up as one virtual paddock. So that's how you do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Pleasure. And thank you.
Thanks, Zippo. I I think that's kind of all from us. So if we want to go into Q&A maybe, or Mark, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, JC, and thank you, Mark. Fantastic, I guess, story you've got there, and yeah, learning a bit more about your eShepherd journey and some really positive takeaways there, particularly with, you know, I get a lot of questions around people saying, can I use my eShepherd neckbands on other properties? Yes, you can. So a really common one lately is people have got an opportunity to lease country that's nearby or not nearby. And, you know, generally those lease blocks don't have any money spent on them. So the fences are quite poor. Providing they've got a good boundary fence, you know, you can take your fences with you. That's very common feedback from my customers that have been doing that. So that's an added benefit, I guess, to consider if you've got opportunity to lease the neighbours or run them in areas where there aren't too many fences. You know, it's a good opportunity to use the technology and also monitor your animals from afar. So fantastic, guys. Thank you very much. Yes, we've got about 15 minutes left. I have got Kent Rochester on the line. He might pop in and say good day in a second, but if anyone's got any questions, even if you want to ask those verbally, please, there's a, you know, you can raise your hand or just unmute yourself and ask away. We've got all our team here and we've got a couple of customers online. So, but if not, we're happy to cross to Kent and just say good day if you're still online there, Kent.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, you got me, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. How are you this morning? How's the weather in sunny southern WA?
Yeah, no, it's good. We're yeah, we've had a bit of a rain and a bit of a start now, so we're actually back out grazing again for this season, which is absolutely awesome. Didn't think we'd be here a month ago, but yeah, we're out again now and really starting to test the boundaries, or really pushing in hard with what we can do with the grazing. So I think I've got over 200 paddocks at the moment and a bunch of schedules set up on maybe quarter of a hectare at a time, new breaks that we're giving up to 4 or 5 times a day to sort of 400 growing yielding cattle at the moment to try and max out their pasture and their weight gains.
Yep, you certainly are an artist, Kent, and you know, when you started your eShepherd journey, I suppose, you know, you were sharing me with when I was visiting you last a couple of months ago that, you know, you've broken up your farm into some smaller cells of, you know, 5 to 10 hectares, which we were looking at, and now you're really starting to push those boundaries. That's awesome to see. And yeah, how often are you moving your animals each day?
Yeah, 4 or 5 times. I've yeah, just getting the hang of the grass as it's developing. Couple of groups I've had to give them a little bit more. So I'm running at 0.02 of a hectare per animal per day at the moment. Don't show that one, Zippo. That's the ones that I let go last night when I was picking up the kids from footy training and I stuffed up my schedule. But yeah, I'm just working out exactly how much grass they need per day to get that grass weight gain balance in check, or where we want it. And yeah, so some of them I'm having to give an extra quarter of a hectare a day, and other ones I've been able to pull back. But I know on average the whole farm's running at 0.02 of a hectare per animal per day.
That's crazy. And I guess another question, you know, for the benefit of our audience, Kent, how do you manage your water points? You know, obviously, it's all good and well to be, you know, narrowing the size of your paddocks and reducing the size to get, you know, better grass utilisation. But how do you manage your water points? I mean, you've got lots of water there, but obviously these paddocks are quite small and not every paddock's going to have water. Do you create laneways? I noticed in the past you've been creating, you know, laneways across your farm and to and from different paddocks. Do you just want to share you know, what's working for you?
Yeah, at the moment, I've still got a bunch of animals that are reasonably new to it, and I'm keeping my laneways back to water pretty basic and not back fencing too hard on them. And that'll be something we'll keep pushing a little bit harder. But I'm not too worried about that. We're staying on that. Animals are staying on that grazing face really quite well, and not spending a lot of time back on previously grained pasture. You can see most of them, like those green guys, seem to be all up on their grazing face, and they're getting a new cell every 3 hours, or every 3 hours. The lighter colour green ones are supposed to be every 2 hours, except for I've got a bit of a mess on that one today. I'll catch up again tomorrow. Yeah, that laneway back to water is pretty basic and pretty. It's not, super hard back fence, but I'm happy with that. It's working really well. The residuals look great, and our first graze stuff from 2-3 weeks ago is recovering unbelievably well.
Yep. No, that's great to see that utilisation and the laneways. How wide are the laneways that you've built there?
I think some of they're probably 50, 60, 70 metres wide, just looking at them without measuring. Most of our farms luckily set up pretty well. There's not a huge distance back to water, or not a huge area that the animals have got per day. Probably 2 to 2.5 hectares, maybe 3 or 4 maximum that they get to travel per day to try and keep that walking down for the day. But they're pretty vague at the moment. We probably could tighten that up a bit, but.
Yep. And you've got in-paddock weighing. Are you seeing sort of the difference, as you tighten those size of those paddocks? Are you seeing the difference in weight gain much yet, or, in terms of weather or water quality, and, just monitoring that day to day with those in-paddock weighers?
Yeah, absolutely. We're still in a transition onto green grass from a feed ration kind of thing. So those weight gains are still jumping around, and we're trying to narrow them down. Those light green guys at the moment, they're not gaining weight. I'm looking to give them a little bit more grass allocation and drive that weight gain up a little bit, and just that balance between the grass and doing the right thing by the grass, but probably not by the cattle. So I'm just going to flip it in favour of the cattle a little bit over the next few days to drive them harder, and the grass will come off second best, but that's okay.
Yep. And I guess yesterday when we were chatting, Kent, you said that you're doing a bit of contracting around the district, and it's always a good opportunity to see what's happening over the fence and what other people are doing. How's your sort of grass or feed value comparing to some of the others in the district with similar sort of rainfall and the improvement of pasture? How's that comparing? Using the eShepherd versus not.
Yeah, and the more of the neck bands I'm getting, I guess I'm bit of an addict or a converted addict already. But now even I've got a lease block that we put poly wires up on the other day, and I thought those poly wires and that grazing system was pretty tidy, but all of a sudden it feels like a waste of grass, and you drive around going, what am I doing here? And so that's why you're shipping me another 100 today, aren't you, Mark?
Yeah, well, absolutely. We're really keen to see you scale up, and it's because you're trading about you got about 1,200 on, is that right, at any one time?
Yeah, I think we're at 500. Yeah, we'll continue to talk. I'm pretty committed to go farm wide now and try and get out nearly everybody behind a virtual fence, and I'm so relieved that we've got some grass this season to really play with and really start to push, and I hope we can replicate some of the numbers we were getting last year in our grazing season. And if that's the case, it's a no-brainer. Let's get full steam ahead into it.
Yep. No, that's great. And I guess, you've probably identified quite a number of times with me about opportunities of leasing country, which I mentioned before. Where do you see the opportunities for other growers? They've got their own block, but of course, lease country or, service areas on cropping places where people might be offering you grass. You see those as an opportunity as well.
Yeah, I think there's massive opportunity. I think Zippo nearly, or whoever found a little purple dot way out 100 k's west of here, was a little opportunity block that we were given in the summer. It's got a boundary fence, but zero infrastructure at all. Because we were tired of feed 6 or 8 weeks ago, I sent sent some animals over there. What have I got? 40 something over there. I've been grazing them remotely. Since then, they're due to come home. I should have got them home last week, but we've been grazing them remotely. I haven't been at all. I've sent a couple of guys over there just to check on them and check what their residuals are like. But that's the sort of opportunity that opens up some cheap or free grass, or some a resource that presents itself that doesn't need any infrastructure. So yeah, it's really handy in that regard. Another lease block I've got that's just rubbish fencing. We can still graze it like a dairy farmer or a really good grazing system without doing a whole lot of work.
Mm.
Yep.
Hey, Kent, presumably this block is being cleared of the blue gum as well, has it?
Yeah, what happened with that one was a bushfire went through there and took out the blue gum plantation a couple of years ago, and they set about reverting it back to pasture, and they got far enough to seed some grass and couldn't graze it last year because they hadn't put their fencing program in, and yeah, didn't know what to do with it. And so I suggested I could bring my own fences with me and go and make use of his grass.
Yeah, fantastic.
Oh, excellent. All right. Well, that's great, Kent. Thank you, and thanks for chiming in and yeah, filling in that little gap for us and sharing a little bit more about your journey. And I can safely say there's no cure to being an addict to eShepherd. We found, so I'm really sorry to tell you that. So you'll have to just keep on scaling up, Kent, and we're happy to see it.
Could be worse, Mark. Could be worse.
No, good stuff. Excellent. All right. Well, we're just about out of time. We've got a couple of minutes left, but I just wanted to wrap up and if anyone's got any more questions, which yes, Trent, we've got a question from you.
Yes, thank you. I'm day 3 into using the neck bands and the software. I just had 2 quick questions. One, on the app, there's a button for the unfitted bands. What's the purpose of that? I'm just not understanding what that might be.
Right. Yeah, what you can do with that, once you've created your animals, and I'm actually just going to jump over and share your operation if you don't mind.
Sure.
So that's you here. I can see you've got a nice training virtual paddock up for your animals, so that's excellent. And if I jump over into your animals menu, so what we've got here is an association between your animal visual tag and the neckband number. Now that you've created your animal, right, you might find a situation where you want to take the neckband off this animal and put a different neckband on for whatever reason. So the unfit function allows you to do that. So if I go and select, let's say this animal here, just randomly taking one, and if I press edit single animal, then I can unfit that neckband here and choose a different neckband that I might want to put on that animal. If I unfit it completely, then the animal record will remain on the platform because, right, your animal is still with you. And at any time where you put a new neckband on that animal, you can use again this menu to put a different neckband on that animal. So that's what that's about.
Or if you sell an animal and put it on another one.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. If you sell an animal, then rather than unfitting, you would likely just delete the record of that animal. So instead, you might go back to the animals menu and say, okay, well, that animal has now left the property. B10 is no longer with me. So you could delete the record completely. As opposed to if you're keeping the animal, then you may want to leave the record of that animal on the platform.
Okay, thank you. While you're on the screen, my second question and final question that I had was, I see the column for the battery level of the neck bands. Is that a feature that will be up and coming sometime soon, or did I not do something correctly?
No, so I'm showing a few things that we don't show to everybody, and the battery voltage it's not a very good indicator of battery capacity, and it's caused far more confusion than it's provided help for customers. lithium batteries tend to have an extremely stable voltage during their entire range. So for a lot of the time, it will show 3.2 volts or 3.3 volts, but it really isn't an indication of how much charge is left. So we've just not shown that for customers because we've just had far too many calls around, oh, my battery voltage has changed a little bit. My God, everything's gone wrong. But yeah, if you know exactly what you're looking at for lithium batteries, then for you, I can see right now these are actually all fully charged. So you're looking really good.
Excellent. Thanks, Zippo. Thanks for your question, Trent. And yeah, just again, round the room, thanks again for all our wonderful presenters. Simon Fowler from WA, Mark Martin from the US with JC, Kent Rochester, thank you again, mate. Great to hear what you're up to, and everybody else that contributed questions, fantastic. If anyone wants any more information, if you're just starting your eShepherd journey, we've got business development managers and customer engagement people across the globe. We've got JC, Cheyenne and Charles in the US. We've got Jamie in New Zealand and myself in Australia. So please reach out. You can find our contact details on the respective country website for eShepherd.com. So yeah, drop us a line or give us a call and we're happy to chat to you, provide pricing or just have a good discussion about what your goals are. So thank you everybody for coming again. This is episode 5. We will be running episode 6 in another month, so keep an eye out for the recording, which Zippo will tidy up in the next couple of days and send out to you, and also an invitation to the next webinar. And yeah, unless there's any more questions, yeah, thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks, Zippo.
No worries. Look, I'm just sharing here the eShepherd Help Centre. The webinar will be placed in this location here. You can see the webinars link. If I go in here, you can see our episode so far. So the latest one will come up here in the next day or two. So I'll send a link out to everyone that attended with access to this, so you can rewatch it and see anything that you might have missed. Thanks, everyone, for coming.
Excellent. Thank you. Have a nice
See
day,
you next
everybody.
month.
See you later.
See ya.